Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, I would like to address a few things that I believe would help you depending on the outcome of your application. I think it is important to talk about this because as you progress, things will come up. And if things don't go as planned, you're likely to maybe be disappointed. But then what can you do? And how do you handle some of this? We're going to cover all of that in this video. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for clicking again. Right now, what you have on your screen is really what I've worked on in the past for a couple of, I've showed this before. I mean, this is not the first time you guys are seeing this, but the key thing here that I just want to put to you, or put across, is your application stage. Now, for those of you that are in the process, all right, there are two paths this can go. Of course, you can either be in or you can either be out, and we're going to talk about how this changes and what to expect and how to manage that. And I think let's talk about the out first. I think it is important we deal with that because I know that as you move through the stages, people get eliminated for various reasons. And my desire for you is not to get eliminated. My desire for you is to progress and get selected. But when that happens, we also need to have a plan on how you manage things, because at the end of the day, hey, we have to be realistic with our expectations. We have to be optimistic in our expectations as well. So you kind of have to manage both of them, or both sides. Now, when it comes to being out, okay, there are three options you have. You can either get self-sponsored, you can get better, you can do something else. And I'm going to explain these three options in detail. The first one, let's talk about the self-sponsored. So when you get, for any reason, you get, you get rejected for any reason, okay? Here are some things that you want to keep in mind. You have the option to self-sponsor. If you have the ability to go the self-sponsored route, then I think these are the steps you should be taking. I've met people that have done this in the past and it's worked for them just fine. Yes, they may feel like they could have tried it the second time and they might have gotten selected, but guess what? You're also wasting time. Time is not your friend because there are no chances or no guarantees that you get selected the second time. So if you're in a position to self-fund, then definitely you may want to consider this route. It's good to be able to save the money, but again, like I said, time is not your friend. Seniority is not your friend. The earlier you join an airline, the better it generally is in terms of seniority. So find a flight school. Now, in finding a flight school, one of the things that I've seen in the past is, for example, if you chose Skyborn and you did well in the assessment. So something to keep in mind is that, and this is me just adding this information here. When you go for this assessment, British Airways does have their own standard that they want people to meet. So maybe, I don't know what that standard is. Maybe it's scoring above average, maybe it's scoring a certain percentage point on the assessment. I don't know what that is, but British Airways has that standard. And if Skyborn feels like these people meet their own standards, yes, they may not have met British Airways standards, but Skyborn feels like, these candidates met the standards during this assessment that they've done, then they are likely to offer the candidate a self-sponsored path in terms of give them an admission or invite them in for maybe an interview and then maybe proceed from that. I don't know how they will handle that this time around, but that is just something to keep in mind, that your time and effort in those applications or those assessments may not go to waste entirely. So keep that in mind. The next thing is, of course, review the courses. So if you've been flying in flight school, review the courses that they offer. If it's integrated route, if it's the modular route, remember, it all depends on what works for you, what you're able to afford. If you can afford an integrated route, I would always encourage you to do that. But if you're in a position where you cannot afford the integrated route, then maybe that the modular route is what you can do. Do what works best for you. I don't think in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it matters. All right. Get your funds ready, of course, and of course, take action. I think this is something that I want you to keep in mind. A lot of times people take too long in doing the analysis. Oh, they want to look into the school, they want to make sure it's the perfect school, and those are great, but at some point the reward or the returns of those efforts is meaningless because you end up not taking any action because you're not overwhelmed with information or the analysis paralysis concept. So the point here is take action so that you can get to achieve that goal. All right. And of course, one thing I also say is you keep learning about aviation, about the airline of your choice that you want to work for eventually. Keep developing yourself and engage. When I say engage, if you have aviation communities around you, if you have aviation organizations around you that you can volunteer with, if you have opportunities in aviation, maybe the Speedbird Z is another one that you can join, and have a mentor, all of that, engage so that you can stay motivated, and also it helps you to build yourself, build your resume, build your motivation and the likes. Okay, so the point here is engage with the community. That's for the self-sponsored part. The second option when you're out is the get better route. Okay, I call it get better because here what you have to do is you don't have the option to go self-sponsored, okay, because maybe you can afford it. But the first thing you want to do is get your feedback. Now remember, for the self-sponsored route, you should get your feedback as well. So I think that is important, even though you may not do anything with that feedback because it doesn't really apply to the program anymore. But remember, that feedback can really help you. Maybe it's your motivation that was not good. Maybe it's your CV that wasn't good. Maybe it's the assessment that you took that wasn't good, because you're likely to face those things again. So the same thing applies to those that are going to take this route of getting better so that they can try again. Learn more about the program. All right. Remember, because you're eliminated at the stage one doesn't mean that you learning everything about that aspect that you got rejected on means that you're not ready to come back again. No, because you likely come back again and then you get stage 2 and then you face problems. So just because it didn't work out for you doesn't mean you shouldn't stay engaged with the videos, the lessons, the materials that they put out. It is very important. A lot of people make these mistakes. Once maybe they get rejected, guess what? They don't want to listen to anything about the program anymore because they're mad. Okay. But the truth remains that you have now left yourself without the information that you will likely need next time. And guess what? There's going to be next time. According to the information that I have, and based on when this program launched again after COVID, they had funding for the next 5 schemes. Okay, I mean for British Airways, and I'm sure they probably have even more now because they've increased the number of applicants that they can take. So the point here is there's likely going to be another chance for you to try again. So stay engaged, just like the one I mentioned earlier, but learn more about the program. Don't just leave and stop learning from the videos and the lessons because you feel like, oh, it's no longer relevant because you're out. That is a mistake that you don't want to make. Next thing is review your mistakes, okay, that you made in the process. Was it your motivation that was rushed? Was it your CV that was rushed? Was it the practice sessions that you didn't put enough time into? Those could be the things why, those could be the reasons why you made those mistakes through your feedback, of course. Then take notes. All right, I would say take notes because when you take notes, you're able to document things and you're able to use it for the future process. It would go a long way. Keep learning about aviation just like the previous one. So if you need to engage with the community, aviation community, do that because it will help you to be better. You would have better stories to tell in the future. And I think it will make you a better person if you do it right. If you need any ideas, you can always reach out to me. Next thing, number of attempts, all right, decreases by 1 once you're out, okay? At this stage, for stage 1, you have 5 attempts in total. If this is your first time, you now have 4 attempts left. And that means that, you know, if the program runs next year, you can still try again. So keep that in mind. Now, this area of asking this question, when should you try again? I think I intentionally put that question in there because I wanted to address this. You see, everything we do in life is more of a compound effort, okay? Just like think about the compound effect, but now compounded effort is what leads to results. Just like when you started this program, maybe this is your second time trying. The first time that you did it, you didn't know what to start. You didn't know where to go. You didn't know what to read, how to study, how to prepare. But the second time you're doing it now, you already have that information. So you are not starting from zero. Now, let's not assume that you didn't get through the second attempt, okay? Now, you're not going for the third attempt. Guess what? You're not going to be starting from your level 1 that you did the first attempt. You'll be starting from as a level 3, somebody that is going on a third attempt. So you have a lot of experience to work with, and that would make you better. The same thing goes with trying again, okay? In this sense, a lot of times, some people may say that they want to take a break, and it's okay to take a break. You understand your situation better than I do. But let me just give you my own word of advice here. If you're going to take a break and you take a break for maybe a year or 2 years, guess what? By the time you try to repeat the process, things have really changed. Especially, let's say 2 years. things have really changed. They've changed the process entirely, and now you're starting from zero. What you want to do is, if you don't get through this time around, try again next time around. Don't leave too much, because remember, it generally goes on for almost generally it's like a yearly thing. So if you don't go the second time, by the time you're trying again, you're now 2 years out, and all the practice that you've done in the past is kind of gone because you've forgotten about it. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's the same thing I want to encourage you to keep in mind in trying again. The sooner you try again, the better. The more programs you can apply to and repeat this process, the higher your chances. Trust me, it works, because your effort compounds. Keep that in mind. The last option for the out will be something else. Now, if you notice, something else doesn't have anything underneath, and the reason is because for this aspect, I want you to think about you finding out what you're good at. Because sometimes you may be thinking, oh, I want to be a pilot, but guess what? Maybe that's not what where your strength lies. Maybe your strength lies in something else, and that is where you have now found out, okay, you know what, maybe this is not for me. Let me do what I am good at. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is okay to grow and develop and find what you are good at and go for it. Yes, it might be disappointing to be out and feel like you're out of options, but guess what? During those critical times are where your most lessons are learned. That, if I said that correctly. So the point here is, do not disregard the intuition of maybe this is not really for you, because you've done everything you can do and it's not working in your favor. It's okay to not waste time and go for that thing that you are more maybe interested in. Let's put it that way. So keep that in mind. Now, continuing with those that are in, if you have applied and you're still in at this point, and maybe you've done your PCA, so now you're waiting for the outcome of your pilot communication activity. While you're waiting, here are some things you can be doing. Start preparing for your stage 2, and the stage 2 has a lot of things that you can start preparing for. And I'm just going to mention them here. For example, for the stage 2, you have the Aviation assessments that you're likely going to take. And I think this is where the flight school really comes into it. If you make it to this stage and you do well at this stage and you meet those flight school requirements, that's when, and for any reason, maybe you didn't meet the British Airways assessment, maybe this is where the flight school kicks in, okay? Of course, you take the capacity test, island test, and group exercise. And of course, you have the interview to prepare for as well for the flight school stage. Remember, if you do well and for any reason you do not meet the British Airways standards, you are likely to be offered a flight school self-sponsored path by the flight school of your choice. Okay. But the point here is, you want to keep learning about aviation as well. Develop those pilot competencies and know how to use them in your experiences and of course in the questions you're asked. And don't forget to prepare for those interviews as well. Remember, review how you can prepare and answer questions during interviews using the STAR concept. Of course, that's a big one, right? So do that and you should be well on your way to hasten your stage 2. Now, there are 2 outcomes you can get in stage 2. You can either be out on that stage 2, like I mentioned, where the school then offers you maybe the self-sponsored path, okay? Or you can choose to do these other 2 options here, getting better or do something else, right? Or you can choose, or you are in, where you then move to stage 3 right there. Okay, so depending on what the result is, which we're not going to be bothered about that at this point, depending on the result of your pilot accommodation activity, those are the 2 options you have. And of course, at the end of the stage 2, those are the 2 options you have. So have as well, you could either be in or out. So the point here is, as you progress, start looking into, don't waste the time. That's the point I'm trying to make. Don't waste the time you have between now and you get the result of your PCA. Make sure that you are preparing and staying ahead of the curve. I know it can be hard to do that, especially when you're not sure if you're in or out. It is very important for you to take advantage of the time you have now to be preparing, and it's better to be prepared than to be unprepared. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this. Remember that every opportunity, whether the outcome is good or bad, whether positive or negative, there are things you can learn from it. And you can choose to either focus on those positives or you can choose to focus on the negatives. The goal is to focus on the positives you can take out of the experience. and look at the negatives and see how you can flip them on their head to learn the positive things. So for example, yes, you didn't get through, but what did you learn from it? What are the lessons you've learned? What are the things that you've gained that has now made you a better person? Those are things that you can take away from this type of experiences. So I hope that you found value in this one. I hope that you will do well, and I hope that you succeed. That is the goal. I wish you success, and I'll see you in a future video.